Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads and must converse is the channel, and you've made it just in time for my take on David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. I did this as a buddy read with my boy Lukash over at A Cruel Reader's Thesis. This was our second buddy read. We buddy read Anna Karenina earlier in 2020 for March of the Mammoths. That was a really fun buddy read as well. But so Lukash and I go for the big books, obviously, together. This one is over 800 pages, 879 in my edition here. This little Signet Classic, 879 is awesome. I mean, but this is a beast. I mean, it really is. Um, when it comes down to it, David Copperfield is a great novel. It is a great novel. It's a Victorian era, Charles Dickens, of course. I would say right off the rip that the prose is very, very strong with this. And I'm reminded of my experience with Great Expectations was throughout the whole reading, because it's you're just in it. The prose is very beautiful. The elements of the story, the characters are painted very well, and you're just drawn in. So I'm gonna share some of mine and Lukash's thoughts a little bit. I'm sure, because we augmented each other's experience of the book. So David Copperfield starts off. We have our narrator is David Copperfield himself. He's telling the story, and he's telling the story of his life starting at childhood. His childhood starts off very sad. David Copperfield's uh, mother dies very young in his life, not before she remarries. He has only his mother. He's a very much a mama's boy. She gets remarried to a very, very hard nosed, very uh, unlikable character, Mr. Murdson. And Murdson brings his sister into the family to live at the house, and she is no better than he is. And they are very, very oppressive, very, very strict, and not good people. So David Copperfield has uh, a hard childhood, but he is of noble birth. David Copperfield is a person who is born into money and born into status in Victorian England. Very quickly after his mother dies, he is pretty much sent, or he's not sent away, he runs away. And rightfully so. He leaves his stepfather, Mr. Murdson, and his sister, and goes solo on a trip to um, his aunt, to his mother's sister, and she is a wonderful character. Now, he's not without support completely. There is the nurse, Miss Peggotty is her name, and she is a nurse. She's taking care of the house, and she's taking care of David Copperfield since his birth, along with his mother. And she loves David, and so she gives him a bit of money. She's somebody that he can confide in and tell her what his plan is, but she can't really help him in any big way. The thing is like, even while David Copperfield is doing this, running away and going to his aunt, who he doesn't know will support him or not, he's thinking about other people. He's doing honorable things by other people, and everybody is taking advantage of David Copperfield. Whether that be people on the way, other kids at school, servants, people of lower class that he deals with in his life. He is constantly being taken advantage of in a way that he doesn't really realize, because David Copperfield doesn't have anyone giving him real direction in his life. And it's a sad thing for the reader to experience, because David Copperfield doesn't really understand the depth that he is neglected in his upbringing. But just by strength of his own internal nature, his own self, just by his own strength, he perseveres, and he is an honorable character. So David Copperfield grows, and his aunt does embrace him and have sympathy for him and allow him to enter her home, but quickly puts him in school. He was in school before in London, and she puts him back in school, and he continues his education and that kind of thing. Gets a job, a menial job, making a little bit of money, pretty much working for food and lodging. Puts him up with with people that she knows, others that are of upper class, but also of limited means, more lower class people. And there we meet Uriah Heep. So we've already met in the story by that time a lot of characters. There are so many characters in this book, and so many of them are drawn. They are all drawn, as a matter of fact, very, very well, all very different. It is a beautiful thing to experience the different characters in this, and they are so memorable. Micawber. Micawber is a character that David Copperfield meets in his first job, his little menial job. I think at a printer is where he's working. And Micawber is this overblown, is prone to like over speaking. Think of somebody who just goes on these oratory rants where, it's all this flowery language and all this stuff that is just overbearing. And it's funny. Sorry about that. But it's not necessarily funny. It's amusing, but Micawber is not a character that you really like, because in real life, this kind of person, you'd just be like, oh God, shut up, But David Copperfield treats him with respect and love, because he's a human being that shows David Copperfield courtesy and respect. And everybody shows David Copperfield respect. Just because he's got status, they do show him respect. And in the ways that he's taken advantage of, in the ways that he's used, are not plain on the surface for him, simply because David Copperfield doesn't have much direction in life. There's nobody that is an adult that is actually taking David Copperfield like under their wing and really teaching him what to expect from life. So he gets to the point where he's pretty much, stable enough that he makes it to his late teens, and he has met Uriah Heep, and as a reader, you've met Uriah Heep, and Uriah Heep is an abominable character. You just hate him, for lack of a better word, he's this kind of character that constantly says how humble he is. Oh, I'm much too humble. I'm so humble that I could never do this or that. Thank you so much, but I'm so humble. And you just get this sense very quickly that this person is anything but humble. This is a kind of person that is manipulative and a snake, and somebody who says what they are so that you think that they're that, so that they can be anything but in the shadows. So Uriah Heep is one of the most despicable characters that I've ever met, as far as, just a regular day-to-day person. There's people like this all over the place. There's people like that don't even realize they are like that. People who say always out of their mouth how they are in I'm a very loyal person. I'm a very honest person. I'm honest to a fault. I'm always so honest, and if somebody's like that, you can bet that they are, anything but, because you don't have to say how you are in those kind of ways. You just be. And the people that are true, that are true human beings, they will see it. And if people don't see it, well, they don't see it because they're not like that. And that's just the way that life is. So enough for Uriah Heep right now. For now. Right? So David Copperfield is this kind of directionless. He doesn't get a lot of support in his life, with the exception of Peggotty and the nurse. Peggotty is the nurse that has raised him, but he doesn't live with her. She lives with her family. Mr. Peggotty is her brother, and he is a wonderful character that is a fisherman that has taken in less fortunate children as his own, kind of adopted them. And one of these children is Emily. And Emily's a beautiful, wonderful character. Very much just, a lower middle class girl. One other character we got to touch on is a character that David Copperfield meets in school that is so bold, and he's a upper class person like David Copperfield is, but he knows, and he has all the means and has support in his family and all that kind of thing. But he is very much a raw kind of person. Steerforth is his name. And Steerforth first, kind of, he takes David Copperfield as his friend, and he also uses David Copperfield as far as appropriating his money and using it for whatever. Now, no harm, no foul, right? Because it doesn't harm David Copperfield. David Copperfield is looking at Steerforth like his friend, and he is his friend. But Steerforth is not a very strong person in himself. He's not a very honorable person. So David moves on, and we go through this story, and David is falling in love all over the place. Here, there, meeting different females and falling in love, and there's not a time that it ever works out until we meet Dora. Dora is a wonderful girl that is actually under the care, when we meet her, of Miss Murdson, who is the sister of his stepfather, who they don't like David Copperfield. They don't think that he's worthy of anything, and they treat him like crap. He ran away from them, but he's been able to make his life right on that. And so they start a relationship, David Copperfield and Dora, and they do it in secret. And this kind of relationship is this secretive, lustful, mystery, wonderful thing that they get into, and all kinds of things happen. They get found out. This is a lot of drama, and it is very well done. It's such a ride to go through, but they get found out. They can't continue on. The father says, "You're done." The father unexpectedly dies. Spoiler alert, sorry. But the father unexpectedly dies. And then they're kind of free again to continue the relationship with a little maneuvering from David Copperfield. So they do. And so, as you can see, what we have here is a very, very hard life. David Copperfield has a hard life, and we were reading this thing, and it's like, oh my God, can David Copperfield finally catch a break? I mean, come on. This is a tragedy, you know? And when Dora and David finally are able to embrace their relationship and they get married, you finally get a sense that things are okay for David in a way. And David Copperfield gets married. At this time, he starts writing. David Copperfield starts on his own career, which is to be a writer, and he's a successful writer. He's a good writer. And so he's gaining success in his job, and he's gaining success in his career life, but in his personal life, him and Dora do not really mesh well. Dora is very immature and won't hear anything of real serious conversations of any kind. She wants to be treated like a child. She wants to be called a child wife, where she is treated very delicately and not part of any real adult conversation or decision making in any kind of way. She wants to just be taken care of. And this doesn't suit David Copperfield's temperament, but he loves Dora, and so he just kind of internalizes his feelings and takes care of them for himself. And at that point, I saw a strength in David Copperfield. He's a very strong character. Very strong. And why? It's based on his own inner strength. He's a very solid character like that. So, moving on, Emily, actually, Peggotty's daughter, adopted daughter, that David Copperfield grew up with a little bit, runs away. Runs away from house, and Mr. Peggotty is heartbroken, of course, and the family is in uproar. And she was actually set to be married to another character named Ham that we don't meet, very, very much. He's a kind of a side character. But she was set to be married, and she up and leaves and elopes with Steerforth. And David Copperfield has brought Steerforth around. David Copperfield feels responsible for this kind of thing happening, even though, he can understand that it's not his fault. He didn't do it. But they would not know Steerforth. It's like he blames himself a little bit for not being a good judge of character. But he loves Steerforth. This is his friend. And the friendship is over, of course. But he doesn't harbor any real ill will toward him. And Mr. Peggotty, therefore, at that point, makes it his life mission to find his daughter. Of course, right? And just to find his daughter to say, hey, no hard feelings, okay? I love you. You're forgiven, okay? You can do what you want to do, and I'm here for you. And it's just very enduring. David Copperfield treats all of his characters with so much sympathy in this book. It is beautiful. It is awesome. It is wonderful. One of the major things that happens in this book that is a wonderful part of the story, and maybe the most major part of the story, is that Uriah Heep works himself into maintaining and managing the company and the money for a very prominent person named Mr. Wickman, who is one of the characters that David Copperfield lived with when he had gone to his aunt and lived with for a while. And all these people, they're family, they're extended family of each other. But not not exactly Uriah Heep, somebody who's like there to serve a lower or lower middle class person who is in the employ of Mr. Wickman, but actually is taking over Mr. Wickman's finances and the company by manipulative and very, very dishonest means. So, in the course of this, Micawber actually gets appointed a job by Uriah Heep. And so Micawber is in on this as well. And there is a whole part of the story where Uriah Heep finally gets his comeuppance. And that is the biggest climax, one of the climaxes. There's multiple climaxes because there's so many characters in this story. I couldn't go through all of it anyways. Sorry. So Uriah Heep finally getting his comeuppance is a wonderful thing, because you love to hate Uriah Heep, and it is all because of Micawber, who is this raucous, overblown, overbearing speaker that you just kind of is on the fence on whether you love or hate him, kind of thing. Actually turns out to be a very honorable person. Micawber is very, very bad at finance. Micawber ends up almost going to jail over and over and over in this book for debt. And he's bailed out by David Copperfield. He's bailed out by other people multiple times. And you just kind of get this sense that, is he dishonest? Is he a liar? Is he a manipulator like this? Or is he just bad at finance and he really just can't, get himself together in this kind of way? So, as it turns out, Micawber is a character that ultimately is one of the most memorable, because he is amusing and he is this kind of character that is gray as far as how you feel about him, but ultimately becomes what I think is the hero of the novel. And why I think that Micawber really is the hero of the novel is because ultimately Micawber is not in any position to do anything as far as bringing Uriah Heep down. He has to get David Copperfield and a friend named Trottles and is it Aunt Betsy, David Copperfield's aunt, as well. These people to come with him and actually support him by being there and doing and because Micawber is a nobody, but he does it. He gets, and they give him the courage that he needs to really lay it out there, what he knows, how dishonest Uriah Heep is, what he's done, how fraudulent he has run the company, and just lay it all out there and do it. And it is at such high pitch, because Micawber is so much that kind of speaker. He can't do anything. He can't do anything subtly. I think of Clark Griswold from the National Lampoon's franchise, right? I think of Clark Griswold, just somebody who can't do anything subtly. Everything has to be overblown and just to its maximum. But not only does Micawber, is he successful in bringing Uriah Heep down, and therefore is like the hero of the story, taking out the most dishonest and ultimately evil character that we meet. Micawber at the end makes a decision to move with him and his family to Australia, and he moves there by choice. So he goes there as a noble gesture and as a person with means, rather than, somebody who's exiled there, like a prisoner, right? So he goes there, and when he's there, then he actually really like comes into his own. He becomes a published writer. He's writing for a magazine that's put out, a gazette maybe, in Australia on a regular basis. And he is gifted. He's able to use his gifts that he's that have been shown throughout the book. He's able to use them to actually finally provide for his family and to become more than what he was. And he grows in this way. And it's very, very good. Ultimately, the book ends on like a bittersweet note, or what do we say? It ends on a positive note, but this book is very, very much a tale of hardship. But I enjoyed it. The prose was very strong, and I'll give you a little taste of it, and then we'll be done, just because I have a feeling this is running kind of long, but we'll see. Early in the morning, I sauntered through the dear old tranquil streets, and again mingled with the shadows of the venerable gateways and churches. The rooks were sailing about the cathedral towers, and the towers themselves, overlooking many a long unaltered mile of the rich country and its pleasant streams, were cutting the bright morning air as if there were no such thing as change on earth. Yet the bells, when they sounded, told me sorrowfully of change in everything, told me of their age, and of my petty Dora's youth, my pretty Dora's youth, and of the many, never old, who had lived and loved and died, while the reverberations of the bells had hummed through the rusty armor of the Black Prince hanging up within, and the motes upon the deep of time had lost themselves in air, as circles do in water. So, Charles Dickens, David Copperfield, it's a great book. It's cool. It's not very exciting. I would say that I did love Great Expectations more. Great Expectations has mystery, intrigue, just a lot more going on as far as like storytelling and plot that keep you gripped. And I did like David Copperfield a lot, and I'm glad I'm read it. Thank you, Lukash, for buddy reading it, and we'll catch you on the next one, BookTube. Thank you. Bye bye.